I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen to order on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. in the Aldermanic Chamber. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Dan Healy, and Alderman Derek Tebow will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with a spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Sullivan.
Here.
Alderman Clee. Alderman Moran.
Present.
Alderman Lopez.
Here.
Alderman Jetty.
Here.
Alderman Clemens. Alderwoman Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman Como.
Present.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Govea.
Here.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Tebow.
Here.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Wilshire.
I'm here.
13 present, 2 absent.
Thank you. Also joining us this evening is Mayor Jim Donchis and Corporation Counsel Steve Bolton. Mayor, did you wish to address the board this evening?
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Madam President. A few things I wanted to mention. First, you might have noticed that yesterday Nashua was again on the safest places to live list, this time second in the United States.
Right.
Now, that's due to the efforts of a lot of people, our police department. There are other factors involved, but I think we need to, everyone appreciates the great community we live in, and it's just another recognition of that fact. We also were awarded by Money Magazine, we're on the list of 50 best places to live in the United States with a small number of other New England cities. So that was another recognition. Madam President, tonight the escrows are before the Board of Aldermen, and I wanted to just briefly touch on the matters that we discussed with the Budget Committee earlier, or last week, I think it was a week ago, just to show you where the members who weren't there, where it is proposed that the major items, the major funds be directed. So on the screen, you see a bar chart. What's proposed here is that of the surplus that was developed over the course of this past year, that consists of revenue which exceeds estimates, as well as unexpended appropriations and escrows from previous years that for projects in the works that haven't yet been fully expended. So what is proposed is that 5.9 million go to the fund balance. This is the primary method by which the city maintains the AAA bond rating. The rating agencies have made it very clear that a continued increase in the fund balance is very desirable, and that any decline in the fund balance would be problematic. You might remember that on 3 occasions we drew down the fund balance, $1.5 million to meet the abatements from the abatement reserve portion of the fund balance. So this would replace that money. We drew down $1.3 million for the teacher's contract. $1.3 million would go back to the fund balance to fill that gap. And we used around $800,000 for the fire department because COVID-related expenditures caused them to go over their budgeted amount. So $800,000 would be replaced to backfill for that amount. So $3.6 million would be used to replace the amounts that were used. And then 2.3 million would be added to the fund balance, giving us a total of about 40-some million dollars when you include so-called assigned and unassigned. There is an ordinance which requires that a very considerable portion of the fund balance be used. And again, we do have 2 AAA bond ratings. The benefits to our community, to the citizens, is that when we borrow money, we borrow at lower interest rates than other communities. This is a very rare distinction. Very few communities have such a bond rating. The next item, $4 million, would go to the tax rate to offset taxes. You can see that on the bar chart. The next, and that is an important item because we want to make sure we provide as much tax relief as we reasonably can. The next item, SURF. Now that has a weird title, but that means Capital Equipment Reserve Fund. That is the fund from which we purchase equipment for the city, like police cars. Those are on the budget. There's a item on the agenda tonight, but for police vehicles, I think it's 6 cruisers, unmarked vehicles, and a marked vehicle. This is where we get the money for purchases like that, from the so-called SURF account. Also garbage trucks. Well, sometimes garbage trucks, but snow plowing equipment, park equipment, all kinds of equipment that are used in departments across the city. And no money was budgeted in the regular budget for SURF. It is not realistic that a city of 90,000 would spend no money on equipment in the course of a year. There was a day when when the city had trouble plowing the streets. And we don't want to get back to those days. So expenditure on equipment, keeping us updated, is a important objective. Next, the next item are schools, $1.5 million. Now they developed $2.5 million of surplus. They have budget autonomy, so they could just spend all $2.5 million. But they returned $2.5 million to surplus, but proposed that we permit them to spend 1.5 of that 2.5 on one-time expenditures. These include air improvements in 7 schools, that's $600,000, $529,000 for the completion of an energy project, LED lighting project at the high schools. That will save $450,000 a year in electric costs. And then there are some $250,000 for deferred maintenance on all of our school buildings, which have a value of, probably present value, a replacement cost of over $1 billion with a B. So they're proposing that some amount of money be put into their capital reserve account so that when something goes wrong, they can fix it. DPW, $890,000 for various one-time items that we discussed with the Budget Committee, and I think you'll hear more about that during the public comment. City buildings, that's another reserve account, just in case things go wrong. Some of that replaces existing money. For example, a few weeks ago, the boiler at the Hunt Building broke down and needed to be replaced on an emergency basis for $90,000. These kind of things can happen. If the money is not used, and it can't be used unless the aldermen vote for it, it is retained and rolled over to the following year. The legal fees are $300,000. Those are to defend a couple of lawsuits brought against the city volunteers, city employees. A lot of lawyers and legal fees are going to be involved there. And finally, we've proposed that 2 items be added that are important to community safety. These are smaller items that do not appear on this spreadsheet, and so you can take the spreadsheet down, Donna, if you wish. Police Department, and Chief Rourke is here, has proposed that has suggested we need more police officers. And we just got the second safest city in the United States. I think we should, and the city is growing. The police department feels that this is important. And so we have included in the proposal $85,000 to do that. And finally, we did try to save money, and the budget passed in June by not hiring an emergency management director after Justin Cates left. And we have saved some money, a portion of the year, but, and he left before July, but the police chief, Chief Rourke, Fire Chief, Chief Buxton, and Bobby Bagley, Director of Community Health, have spoke to me over time about the fact that we really need this position. We just don't know what kind of emergencies or threats we could face. And as we talked about it, we have large events like the Holiday Stroll. We see what's happening around the country in terms of emergencies inflicted on schools and temples and churches. We pray that that won't happen here, and we don't believe it will, but if any, or a natural disaster of some kind. So if any of those things ever occurred, we would really regret not having a emergency management director, and I've been persuaded of that fact by the people I mentioned, those being police, fire, and public health. So I know that there'll be some discussion regarding this. Certainly reasonable people can differ over the exact amount of that should be expended from escrow and the exact amount that should go to the tax rate. But this is the proposal that's before you and that was endorsed by the Budget Committee. And finally, Madam President, I wanted to mention that the Adult Learning Center, a week ago Saturday, celebrated their 50th anniversary of their existence and their service to the community of Nashua. They have served thousands and thousands of people over the years under several very capable directors, now Carol Baldwin, before her Mary Jordan. And it was a wonderful event. Mike O'Malley was there. Several of you were there as well. And I just wanted to congratulate them on everything they've done. They are in an ex-school building. Alderman Dowd and others will remember that. They're in the Alderwoman Karen. They're in the former Crowley Street School, which the city did convey them to them for $1, I think in around 1989. So congratulations to the Adult Learning Center. And that's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. Response to the remarks of the mayor. I'll start on this side. Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. Kudos to the city employees, the fire department, police, and of course, under the mayor's leadership to make us one of the safest cities in America again. Thank you.
All right, so over here, Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to agree, obviously, with the mayor's remarks about the safety of our city. Congratulations to Chief Rourke, the whole police department, Chief Kerrigan before him, for making, it's not a coincidence. It's not an oddity that we're one of the safest cities. It's because we have people that work really hard to get us there and make us safe and that we can feel safe going out. And, I think when they come to us and they ask us for money for something, they're not doing it out of any personal, anything personal. They're trying to get it because they're trying to make us safer. And the city is growing, and you can't tell developers to stop developing properties here in Nashua. So, very excited to vote on the piece where we're voting on police equipment and extra officers. So, thank you.
Thank you. Recognition period.
None.
Reading minutes of previous meetings, there being no objection, I will declare the minutes of the special and regular Board of Aldermen meetings of June 14th, June 21st, July 7th, and July 12th be accepted, placed on file, and the reading suspended. Communications requiring only procedural actions and written reports from liaisons.
Communication has been received from President Laurie Wilshire, Board of Aldermen, regarding procedure for Zoom meetings.
There being no objection, I'll accept the communication and place it on file. Period for public comment relative to items expected to be acted upon this evening. First, we have Lauren Byers. As you know, it's a 3-minute time period. Thank you.
I talk fast. Lauren Byers, Division of Public Works. Good evening, Mayor, President Wilshire, and Aldermen. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the public work escrows that are before you this evening. Almost half of our escrows are for our park and recreation equipment to maintain the city's 900 acres of parkland. Much of our equipment is outdated and makes it difficult for us to properly maintain our fields as well. We're also requesting funding to help us keep our playgrounds updated and safe. We have a very small operating budget for playground equipment. A piece of equipment failed at Roby Park this year, and it took almost our entire playground equipment budget to fix it. The Public Works escrows would allow us to continue our mill and fill program on our streets, repair some of our sidewalks, update and repair our playgrounds such as Atherton and Fields Grove, and better maintain and irrigate our fields, to perform necessary pool repairs, and of course to maintain our bridges. These escrows are very important to keep the city running from a public works perspective. I thank you for your consideration and time this evening.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Rourke.
Not sure I'm gonna beat that or make 3 minutes, but I'll try. Kevin Rourke, Chief of Police. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight on behalf of the escrow funds for the police department. We are looking to purchase 3 different equipment items and the approval of 2 police officers. I'll start with the police officers first. As you know, our budgeted authorized sworn strength is 179 police officers. For a comparison, Manchester has 267 and Lowell PD has 250. We're currently down 13 officers at this time. It does look like we have at least 6 or 7 going to the academies in January and February, and possibly more. We are still doing interviews and recently started something new with having an open enrollment platform. We are testing every month now. We recently conducted an assessment on our department. We applied our own data to the formula that the International Chiefs of Police Association uses, and it was recommended that we should have 12 more officers in our patrol division. That data did not account for all the new housing developments within the city. We have added casinos and many larger scale developments. There's going to be a full-time casino, as you know, going down at exit 1. Just so you know, we have 1 officer that covers that area, the mall and that new casino. Obviously, we'd have to adapt once that casino goes in, and we will do that. But we take another officer from another area and moving them down there. We as a city have to be prepared to handle the rising population in regards to public safety. We are going to be a lot busier, obviously, with these new developments. As your chief of police, I have an obligation to all of you, the citizens of Nashua, and the officers at the police department. That is to protect and serve the citizens of Nashua and provide them with a safe community with an excellent police service. I know we have shown that. As the mayor stated earlier, according to Wallet Hub last year, we were ranked the 3rd safest city in the country. I didn't know it was yesterday, I thought it was today, but we were recently named the 2nd safest city in the country. I also have an obligation to the officers and provide them with an adequate number of officers on the street. So they have enough backup officers to provide them with safety. So we have enough backup officers to provide them with safety also. And regarding the equipment, helmets, I'm looking for 50 crowd control helmets. These helmets would be used in a crowd control type of incident. The purchase of these helmets would assist the department in complying with the new clear standards. The officers would be more adequately equipped
30 seconds.
to deal with this type of incident. We are looking also to purchase 6 laser aiming devices. These are used by the SWAT team. It enhances officer safety. ballistic shield. We're looking to purchase one shield. These shields are used by officers when dealing with a threat or actual armed subject. All these shields are placed in all of our cruisers and are used frequently. Thank you for your time and always supporting the police department. We really appreciate it. Tonight, I am asking you for support to support my plan. Thank you.
Oh, your timing was impeccable. Next, Steve Buxton.
Good evening, Steve Buxton, Chief of the Fire Department. I'd like to speak to you this evening regarding the appropriation of money to fund the Emergency Management Director. The 4 phases of a comprehensive emergency management program are mitigation, preparation, response, and recovery. Most jurisdictions focus only on the response, as an EMD does not have the time or the resources to work on the other phases. This reactive approach does not ensure a prepared community will exist for a crisis situation. The EMD prepares the plans and procedures for responding to natural hazards, accidents, and intentional emergencies. During the event, they help lead the response and are the coordinator with the public safety officials within the community. In the past, the City of Nashua has assigned these functions to fire, police, the school department. While these models we got by, individuals were always handcuffed as they were reporting to 2 masters. In 2011, Mayor Lozo and the City of Nashua took steps to fill the EMD position with a full-time employee. This EMD position brings coordination to the table at which all of the leaders within our community sit. There truly is no better example of the coordination provided by an EMD than our response to COVID. While the pandemic was not on our radar, the coordination and planning systems that were already in place allowed for our success. In addition to the response, planning, and coordination, the EMD has been instrumental in providing the required education for our first responders. Much of this education is needed for our organizations to qualify for grant funding opportunities both at the state and federal level. While we're speaking of grants, the EMD has a unique understanding of the grant funding process, and Nashua has realized a significant level of success and benefit from the efforts of this position.
1 minute.
Between 2011 and 2021, the Office of Emergency Management received $1.2 million in preparedness grants and $1.7 million in recovery grants. In closing, in my 26 years at NFR, I have witnessed all of the models that I've mentioned in regards to EMD within the City of Nashua. All the public safety leaders in our community agree that this position is best suited to serve the City of Nashua through its own
30
office.
seconds.
Nashua invests significantly in public safety, and I would ask that you continue to do so by providing the funding for this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Ortolano.
These are handouts. Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I'm speaking in opposition to spending the $7.5 million of escrow for unlike requests. I've handed out a graph that takes a look at our spending over 5 years with regard to escrow, and I'm going to just hold this up for everyone. It shows from 2018 to 2022, which of course the resolution applies the year after for the escrow money. In 18, 19, and 20, we put $4.5 million back to the taxpayers to reduce the tax rate. In 21 and 22, we reduced that to $4 million. On the flip side, the escrow money that's being returned for unlike requests has gone up substantially, more than doubling. We were at $2.5 million for 2019 escrows, and now we're at $7.5 million. And you can see the total money that is not being spent is up to $11.3 million. In 2018, when we were looking at 2019 escrows, it was $6.5 million. This, to me, does not show good budgeting or good accounting. This is a trend that shows that we are really growing the amount of extra money we have. And we're willing to take more of the taxpayer dollars and spend it down on items we want rather than return it to the taxpayers. And I think that's wrong. I also have a big concern with positions being included in this escrow money, because positions are recurring matters. Year over year, we have to pay for them. They're not single expenses. We have an E-code, section 5130, appropriation accounts and loans to cities. This is page 2 of the document I gave you. And there are 3 sections, D, F, and G. I'm particularly concerned with G. Municipal agencies, in accordance with policies and procedures which may be established by the Financial Services Division, may escrow unexpended appropriations only to provide for payment of charges which will come due following the end of the fiscal year for goods, equipment, or services contemplated by the original appropriation and which do not constitute general, ongoing, ordinary expenditures of the agency. To me, salary positions are general, ongoing
30 seconds.
expenditures. And my question is, are we violating this E-code, section 5130, and doing this with positions? Strongly opposed to positions. I think they need to be vetted differently. I don't think this emergency management person has been out for a long time. And in the budget process, we did not discuss the need for this. Thank you very much.
Communications requiring final approval.
Communication has been received from John Griffin, CFO, Treasurer, Tax Collector, regarding purchase of police department vehicles.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the increased purchase price for 7 new marked vehicles and 2 new unmarked vehicles from $416,884 to $479,027.08, and the increase of $62,143.08. Funds are available in SURF, and I'd like to speak to it briefly.
Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, there's two things driving the increase. One is the fact that what's going on in the entire world with increased prices, and so there's a slight increase in the purchase price, but also these are looking for the term, vehicles with electric and gas. Hybrid vehicles, thank you, and which are a little bit more expensive. So the one thing that's not clear in this is that these vehicles will also save us money over time and would be that benefit. Thank you.
You've heard the motion. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding T1 service migration in the amount of $22,768.20 plus taxes and fees funded from 55109 telecommunications, telephone, voice, general fund.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to place a motion and to place on file an award contract with Comcast Business to migrate its telephone T1 lines to a fiber optic service in the amount of $22,768,020 plus taxes and fees. Funding will be through Department 122 Information Technology, Fund 55109, Telecommunications, Telephone, Voice General Fund.
Alderman O'Brien, that's $22,768.20.
I need new glasses, thank you. I think I just saved the taxpayers a lot of money.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Communication has been received from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding Edgewood Cemetery data line upgrade in the amount of $4,644 plus taxes and fees funded from 55109 telecommunications, telephone, voice/general fund.
Alderman Govea.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to place on file, approve, and award an increase in bandwidth for internet services at Edgewood Cemetery to Consolidated Communication in the amount of $4,644.129 per month plus taxes and fees. Funding will be through Department 122 Information Technology, Fund 55109, Telecommunications, Telephone, Voice/General Fund.
You've heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Petitions,
None.
nominations, appointments, and elections.
Director of Administrative Services, Timothy Cummings, 229 Main Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03061, term to expire indefinitely. Business and Industrial Development Authority, Jaron Thomas Slattery, 17 Berkeley Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064, term to expire October 1st, 2025. Housing Trust Fund Committee, Emily Vassar, 98 Chandler Street, Apartment 1, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03064, term to expire October 1st, 2025.
There being no objection, I'll accept the appointments by the mayor as read and refer them to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee. Reports of committees. There being no objection, I'll declare the reports of the June 22nd, June 27th, and July 7th Budget Review Committee accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I'll declare the special and regular reports of the June 23rd and June 29th Committee on Infrastructure be accepted and placed on file. There being no objection, I'll declare the report of the June 6th, 2022 Finance Committee be accepted and placed on file. Confirmation of mayor's appointments.
Housing Trust Fund Committee.
There being no objection, I will confirm the new appointments of Christy Posada, 12 Nutmeg Drive, Nashua, and Kyle Schneck, 26 Chester Street, Nashua, to the Housing Trust Fund Committee for terms to expire September 1st, 2025.
Zoning Board of Adjustment.
There being no objection, I will confirm the new alternate appointment of Joshua Nahili, 10 Roderick Circle, Nashua, to the Zoning Board of Adjustment for a term to expire October 1st, 2025. Any of those individuals here this evening? Come forward, please, for the oath of office. Come right up. Go.
Housing Trust Fund?
Yes.
Zoning Board. Why don't you hold on just a second? Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Housing Trust Fund Committee of the City of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God. Thank you. You're all set. And Mr. Slattery. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all of the duties incumbent upon you as an alternate to the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the City of Nashua, according to the best of your abilities and agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God?
I will.
Thank you.
Unfinished business resolutions.
Second reading of R-22-063 relative to the reappropriation of fiscal year 2023 escrows.
Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion for final passage of R-22-063 by roll call pursuant to Charter Section 49.
You've all heard the motion. Is there discussion on that motion? Alderman Lopez.
Just as a point of order, should we accept this thing we received during public comment at some point? Or does it
At
still
some
have to
point,
get
we will.
recorded?
Now, right after we do this.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Sure
you.
when. Go ahead.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion to amend R-22-063 And I would like to specifically allocate the sources from the general fund operating budgets, unlike within specific departments, from 964, 877 to 936,548. And the general fund operating budgets, unlike other or multiple departments, from 6.349 million down to 4.189 million, 599,000. And I'd like to speak to it, please.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you very much. The other night, we had the opportunity to listen to all the department heads come up here and talk about the different needs that they had at the Budget Committee. I am also on the Budget Committee. I voted against this. However, that night I said that there was $2.5 million that I thought we could give back to the taxpayers due to the assessments that have gone on and the tax rate that we're working on. I was wrong about that. I went back, I looked after listening to all the department heads, I really looked into these numbers, and I found $2.1 million that I thought we could shave off of that and give back to the Nashua taxpayer. Specifically, about 1.5 million of that comes from the SURF fund. After we buy everything that we have slated to buy in the fiscal year 23, we'll have 1.7 million left. We add into it, we put 1.5 back in. That'll give us a good, healthy amount as we move forward. Obviously, as we move forward in subsequent budget years, we'll be adding money in. There are some part-time positions in there. I thought that those should go by the wayside right now. We have 31 open heads here in the city. I thought it would be a good idea to maybe reallocate those heads, really look at who we have and who we're paying. With all respect to Chief Rourke, asking for 2 officers, I thought that 1 would be appropriate, as he still has 13 that are open. And if we could fully focus on getting 13 onto the department, give him 1 more, that would be great. And then also, I found some money in the hydrant funds and the hydroelectric, as far as in those trust funds that we could, we funded in those hydrant funds $3.5 million in the fiscal year 23 budget. All in all, I found some money. There are some cuts in there, but I felt, and I do have a handout if you really want to look at it, that's where I found the money. I think that we have the opportunity here to, I don't know about the rest of the folks in the horseshoe. I'm hearing it loud and clear. In this year, we need to really look at what our spending is, and we have to make some sacrifices and give back to the city of Nashua. That's my motion.
If you have a handout relative to your motion, would you mind passing that out, please?
Absolutely.
Let's get the handout. See what we're looking at. Thank you. Okay, so that's the motion before us. Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. I could get behind this motion. To be frank, I was going to potentially make a motion to table this. And I'll explain why in a little bit better than I have done in the past, so I don't come off as rude by any chance. But I think the city is on a hot streak. We keep nailing all these great.
Alderman Moran, are you making a motion to table?
No, I'm not. No,
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to. No, I know it's
Okay.
non-debatable. That's why
Right.
I'm not doing
Okay.
it. Sorry. But we're on a hot streak. We're hitting all these great metrics. I just came back from Vegas, so maybe I'll use a casino analogy. I think when you're the table's hot, you want to double down. Maybe you got someone in your ear that says, do it, let's do it. But a keen person, when other things are hot, like inflation, home assessment values, you might not want to spend as much. Maybe you split. Maybe you're not doubling down. Maybe you take a few bucks away. And all the department heads are just, fantastic. They know what they're doing. I agree 100% with the management of the city. But I also love my kids very, very much. And when they come to me, here's my list for Santa Claus, I gotta be blunt with them. Santa Claus can't afford some of this stuff. You gotta be realistic. I think it's appropriate for when city residents are tightening their belts, that city department heads need to tighten their belts at the same time. And this is reasonable. Maybe not, I would probably still go with 2 police officers, but it's not something that's gonna be, we still get to spend a bit. We still get to put Parks and Recs equipment on the street and maintain them. I will say when, potentially your taxes are gonna go up $700, no one's really thinking about what the pickleball court's gonna look like, to be frank. There's a lot of middle-class people. There's a lot of elderly folks that have taxes that are going up. They're getting hit at the gas tank. They're getting hit with electricity and other utilities that are going up. Meanwhile, you got, when Sununu's at his ski resort this year, he's gonna be blasting that heat and without a care in the world after he gave, Eversource, a bunch of tax cuts. It didn't trickle down. I think we have an opportunity here to save some money, and maybe later on put this towards pay down the tax rate. I like to spend on things that are practical. I don't want to overspend, especially in a time like this. Thank you.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. So like Alderman Sullivan says, I'm getting hit with the same things he is. I'm out there all over the city, and I hear it from all the kinds of different people. So I understand that's what's on people's mind right now. When I look at this, so some rhetorical questions because I want to continue my statement. But so at the end of the day, what does that 2.1 million turn into? Because that's not a lot of money really when you come down to it. So what does that turn into for the taxpayer? The other piece is that, and Alderman Rand, you said you could get behind this, but I'm looking at stuff like 74,000. He's cutting out the downtown dining. So again, rhetorical question. You want to remove the downtown dining for the next 2 years because we have an ordinance that says it's there for the next 2 years. We would have to vote on that to get that off the books if we wanted to. I can't get behind the 1 police officer. I think we need it. Also, when I look at this, some of the things I don't see in these cuts is some of the Parks and Rec stuff. Like, to Alderman Rand's point, pickleball, didn't we just do that court? Labine Field, we just snuck in a bunch of money into the budget at the end, after we already approved the budget, or we're about to approve the budget, to fix up that field, the lighting, all that. So now we're adding another expenditure. The thing I'm concerned about, and Alderman Jetty brought it up last week, he needed some brush cleared so kids could walk on the sidewalks to school. And we were told it wasn't in the budget. Why are we doing these things? I have a woman that lives near me that they paved her road, but because of the way they paved it, she's gonna struggle to get up her driveway this winter. And when I asked DPW, they said it would probably be another catch basin and some berm, and it's not in the budget and they can't do it this winter. So she's gonna struggle, and an elderly woman's gonna struggle to get up there. And Mines Fall Bridge, they put a temporary bridge up there, and they said there's no budget to put the same type of bridge they had before, so kids can't run cross-country on it. They have to so we don't have any money for DPW. So that's the thing that concerns me, is we have some of this DPW stuff, but we don't have the things we need. Why can't we just started the budget season. Why can't we clear brush over in Ward 5 so kids can walk on the sidewalks that we have? I don't understand that. So the things we're cutting, according to Alderman Sullivan's plan, is not things I would cut if I had to cut anything out of this. I think the surf budget is important, the police are important, the education piece is important. And when you take what's left, it's not a whole lot. And again, what does that give us? Does that give us 1% off the tax rate, 2%? I don't think it gives us 2%. I think it's probably 1% or less. That's my comments. Thank you.
Alderman Lopez had his hand up, and then I'll go over here and then.
So Alderman Sullivan did the legwork, and I respect that he's taking the lead on this. While I don't necessarily agree with all of the justifications for the items that he picked, I do recognize the sentiment that this is an unusual year, and we do need to look at potentially being a little bit more supportive of the taxpayers with the escrows, because we really have seen historic events. You know, the gas prices are a little bit more reasonable now, but they're still up, and it's not like people get their money back that they paid in the spring. Similarly with the utility bills, those are still sky high, and even switching to other utility providers, you're still paying more out of pocket. And so I do appreciate the sentiment that we do need to give more attention to paying down the tax rate further. I don't know that I can endorse this particular amendment as it is. I have a problem with the last two items particularly, because it seems like they're highly contingent on political perspective rather than necessarily cutting something that's overtly superfluous. So I am not inclined to support this amendment, but I do think that there should be further discussion of those items than was had at the Budget Committee. I think because we had the public hearing ahead of it, it was a lot of information to absorb and digest. And I didn't personally see things that overtly looked questionable, but I wonder what the actual plan and execution is, for example, for the handicap playground at the Franklin Street School when it's about to be winter time and the ground's gonna freeze. They're supposed to open the school for the first time in like maybe 3 weeks, I think it is. But we don't actually have a plan. We would just be approving money for that. There's a couple of other items in there too that I'd want more information about. Not necessarily because I'm opposed to it. Like if we need to make a handicap accessible preschool playground, I'm in, as long as I know that it's a reasonable plan and it'll be executed. But if not, why wouldn't we do that during the budget season? Why wouldn't we let the capital improvement committee look at these ideas that are on the escrows and vet them, and maybe review some of the suggestions that have been made here that I may not see the value of, but might have that value. I think we should consider taking longer on this. And I guess to that point, I would want to ask the mayor, what happens if we did table this for another month to have it go back to a more in-depth review?
Well, I was hoping to ask John Griffin that question. I mean, I think that maybe John Griffin, CFO, is here. He could maybe answer that. I mean, certainly there's room to discuss some of these things. It's not the best budgeting practice to reduce SURF, but I mean, because a balance gets carried from year to year, and that's been going down and down and down, but still, I mean, it's not like disaster would result, I don't believe, from a SURF cut. Some of the things are, hydro fees, that's money we owe to Pennachuck. So based on a increase in their rates approved by the PUC. So, I mean, that's like an obligation. I don't think we should end at outdoor dining. I mean, we went through months and months of, and I don't know if this would, but we went through weeks, I don't know, hours and 11 hours of public discussion and came up with a compromise. You can make your own judgment on the police, I think that, but in other words, if we could get a little time, I think we could discuss these items and maybe narrow it down to items where realistically we could make a cut without failing to meet a legal obligation or something like that. But would it be possible to ask John Griffin the implication of waiting a couple of weeks?
Sure.
Good evening, John Griffin, CFO, Treasurer, Tax Collector. This is a difficult year. I think you're all trying to make the right decision. I would say if we can come back here and nail this down in 2 weeks, that would be helpful. What we're trying to do is close the books. We're trying to get a tax rate set, trying to get the assessments approved by the DRA. So it's all kind of coming to what we call as a final crescendo. But I think given the dialogue we've had on last Tuesday, first time I ever came in with other division directors on escrows. It's usually the mayor and I. But I would say if you need a couple of weeks, we could definitely do that. Not sure if you'd set up another budget review committee or some kind of special committee, but I think that would be appropriate under the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Dowd.
Yeah, just a couple things, some for clarification and others relative to this. I'll say right up top, I can't support the motion as it's been made. I think if people don't understand some of these things, it probably should go back to budget for further discussion. And if it gets that far, I'd make a motion to send it back. But at the moment, I'm the liaison to the police department, the police commissioners, and I can tell you these two officers are critical. And I'm not gonna ever vote for anything that's going to put the city at risk by not having these two officers. They're trying to get fully staffed, they're doing a good job at it, and but they're trying to cover a lot of things that they need additional officers for. As far as the couple other things on here, hydrant fees, as was just pointed out, that's to cover costs that we're gonna pay to the Pennachuck one way or the other. Now, these funds that we're talking about here for escrow are 22 funds that we already have, if you will, in the bank. If we have to pay for it next year out of the 23 funds, we're gonna have to appropriate new money. Big difference. So that's an obligation the city has. We're gonna have to pay for it out of something. So I can't support this. SURF, SURF has never been fully funded and it doesn't work the way I'd like to see it, but yeah, we can live with that. Parking ops, we have a problem with the parking enforcement, and could they survive without this? Perhaps. City clerk temporary wages, I believe that they're short-staffed, and I saw a long line in that office today probably because they're short-staffed. But again, that probably wouldn't kill us if we did that. The downtown dining, if we don't pay it out of this, out of the money we have sort of in hand, and we decide, and we don't rescind the ordinance and we have to do it, it's gonna come out of 23 funds. So where are they coming from out of the 23 budget? And the economic development on the middle school project on Elm Street, that's the old school. Right now, nobody knows what to do with it. They want to save the building, or they want to develop the whole square. There's no plan. The school's going to be out of there in like July of '24. Somebody has to figure out what to do with the building. And this was a study to come up with logical and engineering type solutions. We can have somebody just pick it out of the top of their head, but I'm not sure that, that's gonna help us any. So right now, I can't accept this because for the reasons I just stated, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it's money, put it back towards the tax rate. And by the way, if we have a bad year next year as far as revenues and spending, we're still gonna have to put whatever, let's say it's 6.5 million, the 4 million plus whatever this ends up being, towards the tax rate next year out of funds from somewhere. And if we don't have the revenue, it's gonna be an increase in the tax rate. I don't think that's been fully explained, and perhaps if we have another budget meeting, it can be fully explained. But, do you want the tax rate next year to go up in '24 to go up 2% more than it should? You need to understand that. So we can have some more discussion, but at the end, I may make a motion to refer it back to budget.
Alderman Govea, thank you for being so patient.
Thank you, Madam President. Would I support the motion? Yes, I would. Do I agree with everything that's in the motion? I don't. I know Alderman Sullivan and I had a conversation late last week about it. And there are things, especially the line number 12 with the police, with cutting out one position. I wasn't in favor of that. But at the end of the day, if I like 80–90% of what's inside of the motion, I would support it. I feel, especially this year, every penny's gonna count to everybody. I think we're definitely, I think we're all in agreement, everybody's kind of going through a rough time right now, and it's tough. And I represent a ward with a lot of elderly in it, and I hear a lot about it. And hence why I know a group of 2 of us put in an ordinance to up the elderly exemption, was brought in part that I hear a lot about it. Will I support this if it gets to the point of a vote? Yes, I will. Do I think it's perfect? No, I don't. Thank you.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll use as a guide rule, a rule that we use up at the State House. If a bill isn't ready for prime time, the bill ain't ready. It's that simple. You know, is it up to, really to get into fix it? And looking at this, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of hidden problems with this. This is kind of retro back to an era where I remember there was an alderman here and used to come out with his interpret numbers. And at the time there was a CFO, Carol Anderson, who we paid to have come up with the right numbers, and they were at loggerheads on the particular numbers. And it seems we're almost at this again. In looking at parking ops, I don't think any alderman here, unless you had a recent conversation with Ms. Jill Stansfield of the parking department or with Director Cummings, knows how much money is left in the streets because we don't enforce the current parking laws in the city. We're lacking our potential of, gaining revenue from parking support. Yet I see here is a cut. Well, you're definitely not going to get any parking revenue when something like that. Surf. Those of us that rode out the tidal wave that hit this city, and it was called the spending cap, fondly remember how the surf account never really got funded. What's going to happen if all of a sudden we get a call from Public Works, one of the big DMZ trucks or something like that at the dump fails? Money traditionally came out of the surf. Then we're facing to bonding again. So it's good, every responsible city under, God's good earth is supposed to have a halfway decent funded surf account. This will cut it by 50%. Hydrant fees. The Angels didn't spread the hydrants all around the city. They came from under requirement by fire protection laws, and it costs. And also too, I don't know if you know it, but for every gallon used by the fire department, they do not receive a bill. But the cost of extinguishing of those fires comes out of what the municipality pays in the hydrant fees. So are we jeopardizing our fire protection by making too strong of a cut here? And like Alderman Dow brought up, Elm Street, we have just really scratched the surface of that conversation. So I don't really know where that's going to go into the particular future. So, and then the long, hard fight of downtown dining, I've heard from the taxpayers too, and the pains and everything they suffer, but I also hear from the taxpayers too how much they enjoyed the downtown dining. So, there's a lot here to chew on, all at particularly once. I think we could have extended debate and discussion on each different subject matter. But, and it's because of that, I don't think this is ready. I cannot support it at this time. And, and I hope the taxpayers, it's not that I don't feel your plight. The fact that I'm sitting in this chair, I'm a taxpayer too. I pay the same amount as, to what my house is worth. Well, actually, I don't pay it, the wife does the billing in my house, but she does inform me how much it is. But, it's spread across to everybody in the whole city. And even though I think, I recognize my fellow Ward 9 alderman in his attempt to look at things more efficiently, but there's a lot of deep holes in this, and I don't think it's ready. Thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say thank you to Alderman Sullivan for bringing this forward, because I think it's a good discussion to have. And I want to thank him for the work that he did on it, because I think what comes out to me is that there is an opportunity to do a little bit more than we can, or than what the original ordinance proposes. That being said, though, I would not be in favor of cutting out any of the lines that, for example, the city clerk, the parking ops, hydroelectric, the hydrant fees, economic development, or the police. What I would be okay with, though, is reducing SURF and maybe even reducing it by more than the $1.5 million. I think it's an easy cut to make. We are cutting the future, though, when we do that. So it is something that we have to keep in mind, that, if we cut it by this amount this year, at some point in the future, we're gonna have to find money to put back into it. But this is a tough year for people. And so, while I would not support the other things, I would absolutely support the reduction in SURF. And I think it's, from my perspective, the fastest way to get this done and get it done this evening. It'd be a compromise to a compromise, if you will. Whether we send this back to committee or not, I don't think it's worthwhile going through, in my own opinion, and discussing whether or not we're going to nickel and dime ourselves on $75,000 here, $50,000 here, when I think all of us, or most of us, can agree that, yeah, those are things that definitely would improve the quality of life for most citizens. And some of them, as the mayor said, are obligations that we have to pay. So for me, the obvious place is to cut in that SURF line. I'd be supportive of that, but I can't support this particular motion that's in front of us.
Alderman Camo.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Just real quick before I get into my main comments, I'd like to refute the idea that any money was snuck into the budget for Levine Park. The process was followed to the letter of the law as far as I'm concerned. But as far as this goes, I'd like to echo the comments from my colleague from Ward 1. The motion is not perfect, but then again, neither is the original ordinance. So I agree with probably 80 or 90% of the motion from my colleague from Ward 9. But there's a lot of stuff on the original ordinance that I'd also like to get rid of. And I'd be supportive of the idea of sending it back to committee for further discussion, because I don't like the idea that we have to cast one vote tonight. So I have to say, if I want to approve 2 additional police officers, I also have to approve, budgeting and planning software funds. So I'd like, a more line-by-line approach to something like this, where, I've got, almost 30 lines here totaling over $7 million, where we just passed a budget that we applauded as being fairly flat and staying under the spending cap, and now we're here trying to spend another $7 million for a lot of things that I feel like should have been budgeted in the first place. So I think there is, like a lot of people have said tonight, there is a lot of opportunity to trim some of this down without getting rid of the important things. For that reason, I would support the motion, but I would also support some more time for conversation as well, if that's the route that the board wanted to take.
I agree with you, Alderman Camo, about looking at it further, I think, sending it back to the budget committee is the right thing to do. But I don't agree with what you said about they should have budgeted this. Some of the departments probably had it in their budget until they got to the mayor's desk and he said, you can only up your budget 1.5%. And so all these things that they needed and wanted went by the wayside because we had to stay within that limit. So, I wouldn't say that the directors did not put these things in their budget. It's because they couldn't put them in their budget. Just wanted to share that. Next I have Alderman Jettie and then Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. If I could, through you, I have a couple of questions for Corporation Counsel.
Certainly.
So I don't, my first question is so this ordinance is resolution? What is it? Resolution, sorry. This resolution is, assigning, money that's, the surplus money to various line items that have been outlined. If this resolution does not pass, what happens to that surplus money? Does it just stay in the bank, or do we have to do something to allocate it somehow?
It becomes unassigned fund balance.
Okay, and it's not used to lower the tax rate unless we specifically adopt a resolution doing that?
Correct.
Correct? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. My second question is, I don't know if, during public comment, we were handed something, a copy of an email. I don't know if it's fair to ask you whether you've had a chance to review it.
Yes.
What's your response to that?
Well, the speaker, in the paperwork she passed out, picked out three provisions of various ordinances. Some of them specifically say, in order to do this, you need action by the Board of Aldermen. So that's what this resolution before you is. It's action by the Board of Aldermen. So what this is talking about is section 5-130G of the ordinances. And that has three subsections. So G basically says, except as provided herein for encumbrances and escrows, all appropriations shall terminate at the conclusion of each fiscal year, and no account or claim shall thereafter be chargeable thereto. So when you close the books at the end of June of each year, any unexpended appropriations can no longer have expenses charged to it unless, one, funds may be encumbered, thereby reserving a portion of an appropriation prior to the conclusion of a fiscal year to provide for the payment of obligations which shall come due in accordance with existing purchase orders, contracts, or salary commitments chargeable to an appropriation. And the Financial Services Division may establish policies and procedures setting forth the manner in which that is done. So you've contracted to do something, right? That work is being done. It won't be finished exactly on June 30th. It'll be finished a few days later or a week later, the end of the month. And you'll get a bill sometime in July or August for that work. If you've encumbered that money, you can then pay the bill from that appropriation account. So that's the first exception, and you'll notice it doesn't require any aldermanic approval. Second exception, the Board of Aldermen may by resolution escrow any and all of an unexpended appropriation for purposes set forth in said resolution. So that's exactly the resolution you have in front of you. To escrow unexpended appropriations for whatever purpose is set forth in the resolution. And this resolution sets forth the various purposes for which that money will be applied. 3, municipal agencies, in accordance with policies and procedures which may be established by the Financial Services Division, may escrow unexpended appropriations only to provide for payments of charges which will become due following the end of the fiscal year for goods, equipment, services contemplated by the original appropriation, which do not constitute general, ongoing, ordinary expenditures of the agency. So a little different from the first exception is a further requirement in this third exception that they are not ongoing general expenditures of the agency. Again, that doesn't require Board of Aldermen approval. So the suggestion that the ordinances can prevent the Board of Aldermen from making appropriations is just wrong. Ordinances are passed by the Board of Aldermen. It's fundamental that you can't take your own power away from yourself. Board of Aldermen has the power to appropriate money from the city treasury. That's what the budget is. That's what this escrow resolution is. These other ordinances basically apply to what the mayor can do or what the agencies can do without the approval of the Board of Aldermen. In some cases, it sets forth for clarity what the Board of Aldermen may do. And that's what we have. So there's nothing inappropriate or violative of any law if you were to pass this resolution, which I don't see that happening at present. But there you have it.
Thank you. So may I continue? Madam
Certainly.
President? So I've heard several people express the idea of sending this back to committee for further review, and when and if that motion is made, I would support that.
Okay, Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I'm so happy we have such a keen legal advisor that can actually stomp that misinformation out. Thank you, Corporation Counsel. Second, maybe to my esteemed colleague from Ward 9, perhaps if this motion were to be withdrawn, another motion could be put forward to send this back to committee, because it seems that that may be the flavor of the room. And we can all maybe get something that we would want that benefits the taxpayers.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I understand and I appreciate your comments, but I feel that I've submitted a motion that I think that makes sense. And if it goes down, then it goes down. I'd appreciate an up or down vote on it.
Okay. Alderwoman Kelly.
I'd like to move the question.
I'd like to move the question.
Yes.
Okay. Alderman Kelly has made a motion to move the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That motion carries. Okay, the motion before us is to amend. Mr. Clerk, could you tell us what the motion is?
I would defer to Alderman Sullivan. I didn't quite catch the full motion.
Can I just say that I made a motion to amend R-22-063? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't advise that that's okay.
Okay, in the amount of
It
2
has to-
million?
It has to be clear what the amendment is.
All right, from the top. I made a motion to revise R 22-063 to take escrow funds within specific departments from 964,877.05 down to 936,548. In addition, other escrow funds, other or multiple departments, from $6,349,016.04 down to $4,189,599.20.
It's a parliamentary inquiry.
Alderman Dowd.
To the Corporation Council, the motion, the original motion before us requires 2/3 vote. Does this change also require 2/3 vote?
No, the amendment, if a vote to amend the resolution only requires a simple majority, but you still are making additional appropriations. So when you come to the main question, as it may be amended, that vote will require a 2/3 majority.
Okay, so you've heard the motion. All, roll call?
Roll call.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman O'Brien.
No.
Alderman Sullivan.
Yes.
Alderman Moran.
No.
Alderman Lopez.
No.
Alderman Jettie.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
No.
Alderman Kelly. Alderman Kelly.
No.
Alderman Como.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
No.
Alderman Govea.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
No.
Alderman Tebow.
No.
Alderwoman Timmons.
No.
Alderman Wilshire.
No.
You have 4 yeas, 10 nays.
And that motion fails. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. I have heard the conversation. I've been, I think there is some interesting work done by Alderman Sullivan. I think that the conversation in the room is that we think this could use more discussion. And so I agree with that. And I would like to move to send it back to Budget Committee, please.
Motion is to,
Pending motion.
Pending a motion?
motion is to re-refer.
Yeah, I can put that on top of it.
That's in order?
That's in order,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, I did, point of order, Madam President. I thought originally I made it a motion for final passage, and that opened it up for the discussion.
Right. Now we're re-referring it.
Okay, to re-refer.
Yes. Motion is to re-refer. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
That motion carries, and resolution 22-063 is re-referred to the Budget Review Committee. Alderman Dowd.
Yes, it'll be basically to a budget meeting TBD. We may have to have a special. I'm going to have to confer with Donna because we have a lot of things going to budget, so.
We have a budget meeting on October 24th, and then
still
a
wanna
full
check.
board meeting October 25th, so it'd be nice if we could squeeze a meeting in before that, if possible. Thursday, October 20th.
I have a question.
Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I would like to, I hate to drag out all of our department heads again, but I think one of the things that struck me the most was making sure we're not making cuts to things that are really critical without having heard from them. So I would ask Alderman Dowd to get as many of them to that meeting as possible so we can make sure we're making thoughtful decisions. Thank you.
Alderman Lopez.
To Corporation Council or to the chair of the Budget Committee, if we already had the public presentation for public hearing on the escrows, but then we change the ones that we end up actually passing? Do we have to have the hearing again, or is it already known, we just didn't choose everything that was presented?
As long as you don't add new items or increase the expenditures, you don't have to have another public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
So we don't need a public hearing again.
So don't add more money while we're trying to save it?
So, do we want to go with the October 20th budget review? Or do you want to wait and see?
Look okay, Donna?
That's the only date that we have available right now on our calendar for the 25th.
The agenda, is the agenda light or heavy or?
Well, we have a pub on the 24th. There is, when we get to the new resolutions, there is going to be a public hearing that I'm going to schedule regarding a bond for the mobile command center. So you'll have that on your agenda, and I don't remember what, I think you might have maybe one or two other things on that agenda. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not sure.
Should be okay. Alderman Wilshire, it should be okay.
Yeah, Alderman Dowd, are you talking about the 20th?
20th,
Okay, so will be the next budget review meeting?
right?
Okay.
No.
In addition to. So your regular meeting is on October 24th. They're asking if you want to have an additional meeting on the 20th, just on the escrows. Or do you want to have it on the 24th?
That's fine. We'll do it on the 20th.
Okay, the next meeting of the Budget Review Committee will be on October 20th, 7 PM. Stay tuned. Okay, unfinished business ordinances.
None.
New business resolutions.
First reading of R-22-069 relative to the acceptance of $34,936 from United States Department of Justice into Police Grant Activity 2022 Justice Assistance Grant, multi-jurisdictional.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Camo, Alderman Dowd, Alderman Karen, Alderman Tebow, Alderman Timmons, and myself. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Human Affairs Committee.
First reading of R-22-070, authorizing the mayor and the city treasurer to issue bonds not to exceed $675,000 to purchase a new MT-55 mobile command center for the police department.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Camo, Alderman Karen, Alderman Tebow. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Budget Review Committee, the Board of Police Commissioners, and schedule a special Board of Aldermen public hearing at 7 PM on Monday, October 24th. New business ordinances.
First reading of O-22-028, requiring non-public sessions to be entirely in person.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Moran, Alderman Lopez, Alderman Clemmons, Alderman Timmons. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Personnel Administrative Affairs Committee.
First reading of O-22-029, authorizing stop signs at the southeast and southwest corners of Parish Hill Drive at its intersection with Parish Hill Drive.
Additional sponsors: Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Sullivan, Alderman Moran, Alderman Camo, Alderman Dowd, Alderwoman Timmons. Given its first reading, I'll assign that to the Committee on Infrastructure.
First reading of O-22-030, increasing the elderly tax exemptions.
I am reluctant to assign this to the committee just yet. There is no fiscal note on this, which I feel will be significant. So I'm going to leave this on the agenda for now. Typically, we get a fiscal note with these, and I don't think it's fair to send it to the committee without that. So we'll just sit on it until, I mean, it doesn't go into effect till a year out anyway, so I don't think there's a real rush for it, but once we get the fiscal note, we can assign it to the committee. Period for public comment, general public comment. Dana Springer.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council President. Good evening, Aldermen and Alderwomen. My name is Dana Springer. I came here before for Doris Miller to be recognized for Pearl Harbor for his efforts. The reason why I feel that he should be recognized is because I feel there's like an imbalance because of segregation. during the early part of World War II, actually way before World War II, until the end of World War II. So I would like to see if we could kind of come together. I listened the first time I was here, saw some people on TV, but now that I see you all here, I see there's a lot of wisdom in this room. And I am second generation military. My son, he was in the Marine Corps for 10 years, and I have a granddaughter now. And I believe that we made a lot of contributions to this country. Doris Miller was recognized by President Biden as a leader, a military leader, during his time. He died in combat. Another engagement after Pearl Harbor. But I don't know if you guys know the history of him, but he came up as a messman. You know, back in his time of service, there was only messmen and armament. Deal with, yeah, you know you were in the Navy. Deal with ordnance. The reason why is because, you know, military members, especially colored military members, were down at the bottom of the boat, and they dealt. So every round fired, there was one of us down there doing that. I think that's a contribution. Pearl Harbor was recognized as
1 minute.
Pearl Harbor was recognized as one of the greatest battles in history in the Navy. So when I look at Pearl Harbor, I look at that, and I had talked with the mayor before about this, and wanted to see if he could be recognized for that day, for his heroism. Again, during the time when we were really unbalanced, a person of color in Civil War was like 1/5 of a human.
30
and
seconds.
I think we came a long way from there, and I would like that to be considered. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Remarks by members of the board. I'll start over here tonight. Alderwoman Timmons. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Lori Ortolano.
Lori Ortolano, 41 Berkeley Street. I want to thank the board for taking the time to think a little more about the appropriations that are going to be spent. I want to thank Alderman Sullivan for putting in the time to try to come up with a plan to offer more relief to the taxpayers. You know, it's easy to be critical of what you offered, but you were the one who brought forth the plan, and that's appreciated, I think, by many of us. I would like to address Ernie Jetty because I feel I'm very appreciative that you asked Attorney Bolton for an explanation regarding that ordinance on appropriation accounts and loans to the city. When I bring this forward to you and I ask this, it's not to present terrible information as Alderman Moran indicated, you know, we have to get rid of this terrible misinformation out there. I'm really trying to understand it. And I do this kind of research to understand it. And as a citizen, I don't have the right to ask questions to anyone to get an answer within the city because it's not a right to know request. So if I don't come through you and somebody here doesn't ask it, I don't know, and the citizens don't know. So kudos to you for at least allowing it to be clarified and for me to have the opportunity to learn. And I would like to ask Alderman Moran to be a little more patient with those of us who don't know and we simply want to learn by what, you know, what these codes say and try to understand what can be done and what is supposed to be done. I still am not in favor of positions, ongoing payable positions being part of an escrow account. That's 0.5% of your budget next year is now being appropriated this year. And the 7.5 million represents an additional 2.5% of your spending, which setting a budget by the mayor to say, you know, this is what we're going to keep it at 1.5% or 2%, and now you roll in and you put 2.5% more in, that's a different budget now. And we're paying for that by not getting it back on the tax rate. So I'm not trying to be difficult, but I hear plenty about what people are spending too. And I do a lot with assessments and get a lot of calls for help. So I appreciate what's going on out there, and I think citizens are looking for relief. So I'll be at the budget hearing on, or the hearing on Thursday night, and I hope that you have a bond table available for the public. We get a review of all our bonds that are coming due, what's coming off the table since we're about to add another 32 million or so in bond debt to the city. I'd like to understand that in some detail, and I'm hoping at this hearing, when I ask questions, that I'll get the courtesy of some answers. Thank you.
Remarks by members of the board over here. Alderwoman Timmons.
I'd like to congratulate the Adult Learning Center, especially Carolyn Baldwin, for all her work at the Adult Learning Center. Congratulations. Also, I believe that we need to fund certain things like the police department and the fire department, and I do support adding those two additional officers. We need them. And I had a long conversation with the chief of police and the fire, and I support them. I just want the public to know that we cannot cut things. And the fact is, a lot of things that's going on in this city right now that the public may not be aware of, and it's dire, and it's scary, and we need the protection of the police department and fire department and DPW. So I will never support anything that cut those departments out. And that's all I have to say.
Alderman Tebow.
Thank you, Madam President. I have a few things to say, as I always do. So this escrow thing, it's important. I thought it was really important. So I made sure I studied it up and wanted to say what I wanted to say here. But we're sending it back to committee. And to me, then we weren't prepared. We should have been prepared to vote on it tonight. And either it's important or it's not. If it was important, we should have watched it on TV if we weren't part of the budget committee like I did, or come to the budget committee. Now we gotta bring all the heads back to talk about it again. That means we're not prepared, in my opinion. And when we ask questions like, why didn't they have it in the budget to begin with, when it was clearly stated at that meeting by the mayor that they did come with extra and he told them to cut it. That's how the budgeting works. I will applaud Alderman Sullivan. He came prepared with a plan. Even if I don't like it, he did come with something. I didn't come with something because I agreed with most of the things on there. And the things I didn't agree with are so small that it isn't gonna help. 30,000 here and 20,000 here is not going to help the taxpayer. I wish it would, because we could cut some things off of here. Surf budget, I would agree with Alderman Clemens if that was what was on here. I like how downtown dining was snuck in there. I guess it's a way to try to get it out of there. That is political. Thank you, Alderman Dowd, for bringing that up. But at least there was a plan. And I don't know why do we have to have another budget meeting on it? That's what I don't understand. If you didn't read up on it and you weren't prepared, then I don't know, shame on us as a group. So a couple of other things. Today's National Coming Out Day, so I just wanted to throw my support out there for every person that's ever had to come out. It's not easy, I'm sure. It's obviously not me, but the people that have to come out, I'm sure it was difficult. And I applaud everybody that has to go through that. We still have, attacks on the LGBT community, the trans community. It's still out there. We have racism in the city, all that stuff, and so I applaud people who've had to go through coming out. And then one last thing, thank you for some of the aldermen that voted last year for Indigenous Peoples Day. I applaud you that we've gotten rid of Columbus Day, and I know that hurts some Italians out there. It's not about that, it's about really recognizing the people that started this country and were on this land and that we put out, not we, but Americans put out. And I appreciate that we did that. I can't remember which one of you guys did that or which bunch of you guys did that, but thank you. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Alderman Gavea.
Thank you, Madam President. Two great events I was able to attend early on this month so far. The Adult Learning Center 50th year anniversary. It's great to see the Mayor, Corporation Council, Alderman Dowd, Alderman O'Brien. It was a really good event. I think Nash was truly lucky to have the Adult Learning Center here. It's a great asset to the city. And then we had the great Ward 1 Apple Fest on October 1st and 2nd. Another fantastic event. Just a lot going on in the city. So just everybody out there, look at the calendars and get out and get involved. It's a lot going on. Very busy time of year.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes, that was a great event.
Adult Learning Center, and it was held at Riviera College. They donated the use of their science building. That is an amazing building, and I would suggest anybody take a look at it. It's quite the facility. The other thing is that I hope as many people as can possibly make it will be at that budget meeting. And I ask that as much as possible beforehand, even if you can talk to the directors beforehand, on each one of the items that are on that list, fully understand the implications of eliminating it. And not just use a number. I'm not saying we did that, by the way. I'm just saying that you need to know the implications. I've heard the reasoning by sitting in the police department meetings, and I can tell you they need them. And they could probably use more. They're asking only for 2. And they would have asked more in the budget, but again, they're constrained by the % of increase. So each one of the items and the hydrant fees, we're gonna have to pay that somehow. We can pay it out of existing 22 funds that we have sitting here now. Or we can pay for it out of, make another appropriation in 23 out of 23 money that we haven't appropriated yet. It has to be paid. And it's not the Penachuk, and by the way, even though we own the Penachuk, we don't control the Penachuk, we're just the major stockholder. And the PUC drives the bus. And they've upped the rates, and we don't have any say over it. We owe that money. So figure out, if you will, if we cut this, where the hell are we gonna pay for it? So look at each one of the items and see what the implications are. The hydroelectric, for instance, is putting the money there going to help us raise additional monies through the hydroelectric process. So you want to understand each one of those particular lines. And I, for one, won't vote for anything that cuts the 2 police officers.
Alderman Kamal?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to thank the surgeons and the staff up at New Hampshire Neurospine in Bedford. They did a great job 12 days ago not paralyzing me when they were fixing my spine. But mostly I just wanted to thank all of my colleagues here who reached out over the last week or so to check on me, including Alderman Klee, who's not here tonight. But it meant a lot to me during the recovery for all you guys that reached out and checked on me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I have.
Oh, Alderwoman Kelly.
Sorry, I thought you were saying I saw your hand. Thank you. I just wanted to comment on the referral. It's not something that we do lightly. I think that unfortunately, because of right to know laws, that was the first time I saw Alderman Sullivan's changes, and there was quite a bit of discussion. So I think that sending it back to committee when enough people here feel like there's some additional questions is the right thing to do. And it's not about not being prepared, it's about making sure we're doing the right thing and fully listening to everybody's needs. So, thank you.
Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to just start, I'll start by with the re-referral. And I had mentioned when voting on it that, basically, in my opinion, I won't support cutting individual lines in there. I don't think that it's necessary. I think that we can cut out of the transfer to SURF and get the same result and have the various lines. So regardless of what comes out of that committee, I'm not going to support anything that cuts an individual line like that. You want to cut SURF, big chunk of money, put it back towards the taxpayers, that I will do. I certainly won't support cutting, the police department funding. And that kind of gets into my second point, which was that Nashua was honored recently, won by Money Magazine as the number 44 place to live in the United States. And we were ranked number 2 safest city in the United States as well. And so these awards and these recognitions keep rolling in. And that means that we're doing a good job here at this level. Mayor's doing a good job. That means that our city employees are doing a good job. Our division heads are doing a good job. They know what they're doing. They're spending frugally, they're spending the taxpayers' money well, and we're getting the benefit from it. So when the police chief comes and he says, I need 2 more police officers in order to maintain the functionality of this department, in order to maintain the city being the safest place, or one of the safest places to live, and it's only gonna cost $185,000 out of escrow, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna listen to him because he's keeping us safe in this city. So, you know, I like the spirit of compromise that was brought up this evening. I think what it showed me is that, you know, there's room to negotiate there, but as far as the individual lines go, I would want to keep them in place. One last thing that I did want to say was opinions can change and opinions can evolve over time. And one of the things that I recognize as I was going through, if you have Facebook, it'll pop up, your memories will pop up sometimes. And it wasn't too long ago when I was against changing the name of Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And I had actually put that out there on Facebook a few years ago. My opinion on that evolved after hearing from different groups and being enlightened on kind of why that was an important change and why that was something that we should do. And when the opportunity came up to co-sponsor that with Alderwoman Kelly, I jumped on board. So it's just an interesting thing because it was a personal kind of thing that I kind of looked at it and went, huh. And, but you know, my point is that we should never be static. We should always be evolving. We should always be listening. We should always be open to change. I think that is one of the things that helps you separate yourself from other people, and really, as a person, kind of, it made me realize that you know, I'm growing as a person too, and I wish we all could do that. So, thank you.
Alderman Jettie.
Thank you, Madam President. You know, I voted, I was in favor of sending this back to committee because I think that you know, there are a lot of us that were uncomfortable with the resolution as it stood, and you know, I think this you know, meeting of the Budget Review Committee dedicated to reviewing this is a good idea. And you know, one of my jobs as a lawyer is I'm a mediator. I'm a court certified mediator. I do a lot of mediation, and I can't tell you how many times a mediation has started with each side, you know, telling me, you know, what their rock bottom position is, and they're never going to ever change. And both sides, you know, are completely apart. You know, there's no way that they're going to agree to anything. And you know, it's happened more often than not where, you know, after discussion, you know, after hearing the other side, after hearing the alternatives and stuff, you know, people, as Alderman Clemens just said, you know, people do change their opinions. They do change their minds. So I would encourage my colleagues to go to this meeting with an open mind. You know, the department heads will be there to defend their request, to answer questions, and you know, maybe we'll all agree that that everything they're asking for is absolutely necessary, and it'll come back just, just the way it is tonight. On the other hand, we may learn, that there are, places where changes can be made, where expenses can be reduced, these budgeted expenses could be reduced. And, and we may find that there is an opportunity to provide more relief to the taxpayers. And I've received a lot of calls, I'm sure you all have received calls, from people who are just absolutely shocked about how, their assessment has changed. And I've heard these terrible stories about how, they made the appointment with Vision, they went and talked to Vision. And one woman told me that, she went and she explained her situation and how she couldn't understand the assessment that was made by Vision, and the Vision representative agreed with her and said, "Oh, obviously there's been a mistake, I will talk to my supervisor." And then when she got the letter, no change. And now she's being told, Vision is done, there's nothing that can be done. The assessing department had nothing to do with what Vision did. Her only recourse now is to, after she gets her tax bill, to seek an abatement. And so if there's a way that we can, help people, I'm all for that. Maybe there isn't. But I encourage everybody to come to this meeting with open minds and ask good questions of the division directors and see what happens, see what you learn at this meeting. And there may be reason to change your mind, there may not be. But I would encourage us all to approach this meeting, with a fresh look at this resolution. Thank you.
Alderman Lopez.
I want to start by saying thank you to Mr. Springer for coming forward and making his comments. I know he's a very passionate advocate of Doris Miller, and I think it's always helpful to have that story told and for us to think about it and to be mindful of the distances we've come in a lot of areas, and maybe be inspired to help find a creative way to recognize him in Nashua. So I appreciate him coming forward with that information. I don't know that we've made as much distance as we think we have. I know the restaurant around the corner here had the N-word sprayed across it when it opened, and the owner has had plenty of pushback from people over particular issues. I know that in the local neighborhoods, we've been pushing back against a lot of white supremacy graffiti. When we talk about public safety, we talk about being #2 safest place in the country. That wasn't good enough for my friend over the summer who was murdered. And it definitely wasn't good enough for all of the entire clown car of white supremacists who showed up to start claiming they were gonna find her justice. And when they encountered the neighbors in the area that weren't pretty fond of that, they paraded right up Main Street, right through all of the outdoor dining and activities that were taking place during that day. That's when I wanna make sure that the police are equipped and ready to intervene if needed. We don't know what those situations are gonna look like until they show their face. But after a tragedy and after a disaster, we can always look backwards and say, we should have seen that sign, we should have seen that one. So I think the police is being very proactive in making sure that they have the equipment that they need and the personnel. I definitely plan to support that. And I would have found it questionable a few years ago, saying, well, I mean, do you want 2 more officers when you already have 13 spots to fill? I think they probably can. Because as was pointed out, the first time we were at full capacity was recently. We did have a number of retirements, but those were people who had, put their time in. So I think I would bet on the police right now and on the commitment to public safety and the reputation that Nashua has earned, at least as far as Wallenhub is concerned, to draw quality officers, applicants, and candidates. I also think that it's important for us to have dialogue on the Board of Aldermen. I know it's a rush and it's very exciting being an alderman and trying to get things done really quickly, but the first question I asked was, do we have to do this tonight? Is it possible? And our own experts, including the mayor, said we could wait. we could give some attention to this. And that suggests to me that there's a will to doing it. So rather than performative activism, where we talk about how much we care about the taxpayers and the struggles that they're going through, let's do it. Let's actually look at things and comb through it. The meeting the budget committee meeting that followed the public hearing, a lot of new information was presented at the public hearing. That was 90 minutes of presentations and then like 12 minutes of actual public hearing. So there was a lot to digest. New information was presented here, and as an alderman, I assert my right to be able to say, wait, I'm looking at this more carefully now, and I do think we should vet this. And I trust the rest of you to be able to say, so are we. We don't necessarily have all the same concerns or objectives in what we're doing, but we all do know that we can trust each other to have a conversation. And I appreciate Alderman Dowd, especially with the exchange that our aldermanic assistant, Ms. Graham, had, for making time in a busy, very busy legislative season to really look at this and take it seriously. I think that speaks highly of our sincerity to the taxpayers, and I think it's something that will mean a lot to people who really are struggling just paying their electric bills as it gets colder, having to figure out, wait, do I just wear 3 sweaters or do I turn the heat up? So I think it's important that we do that process. On a somewhat more community-focused note, but I guess not unrelated, the bus company is short a few drivers. So this month, the month of October, they've reduced the Saturday bus schedules. I think this is important for the public to be aware of, especially people who might have kids that are going to and from work, that, for example, the evening buses aren't running and the on-call paratransit isn't running. There is a post that's on the National Transit's Facebook page and main page articulating exactly what these shortages are. They are looking for more bus drivers. This is a temporary transition. They're working on resolving the route issues, and they basically did it based on the usage rates. So this wasn't just a big slash and cut. They thought it through very carefully. And I can attest, as someone who rides the bus every day or desperately tries to catch it, that they are struggling. The bus drivers are picking up huge amounts of people, which slows them down, and they're running through all kinds of different construction that's happening downtown. And it's a stressful, difficult occupation. And our bus company is competing with, other CDL operating businesses, which are very lucrative. So the bus drivers we have deserve a lot of credit and a lot of support for the work that they're doing. The bus company that we have, equally so. But we should be aware that this month there will be changes to the schedule. I also wanted to finally invite everybody to Riverfest, which is essentially Ward 3's first block party. I've been helping Alderman Klee manage the development of it. She's very passionate of it, even though she's like in and out of the emergency room, surgery, whatever else. She's still committed to it. She has a great core of local residents who have a passion for this. There's some creative stuff I've never really seen anywhere before, like the, I forget, Chubby Bunny Challenge, where you stuff marshmallows and you try to say something. I encourage all aldermen to do that. I think it's the look you need for your election pictures. I myself will be competing in Panucci's Pepper Packer Challenge, which is basically you eat a jalapeno, give it a minute to really set in, and then try to eat as many as you can in the next minute. So nobody here is going to die doing that, but it should be entertaining to watch. So I would definitely come by. It will be Saturday, October 15th from 11 to 4 over by 12 Front Street. And it will be dwarfed by the duck derby that the National Rotary is doing. They do this every year. It's a massive outpouring of the ducks that people have sponsored in their race. National Area Kayak Exploration Destinations will be will be herding them down the river. And they've added a whole bunch of new amenities to their event as well, like food, drink, that kind of stuff. So this Saturday should be a good one. And if anyone, and the weather's any indication, it might be one of our last really good ones before the winter, so I would definitely encourage people to come and check it out. Thank you.
Alderman Moran.
Thank you, Madam President. First and foremost, to the gentleman who spoke tonight, thank you very much for your service to our country. I truly appreciate it, and I would love to learn more about your advocacy. Yesterday was Mental Health World Awareness Day. As it may know, I'm a therapist. day in and day out, I help people who struggle with mental illness. And even though there's a World Mental Health Day, every day should be Mental Health Day. Everyone should work on their mental health. No one's immune to it. Some just more severe than others. Yet also, today is National Coming Out Day, a day that's very special to me and members of my family. And I just do want to acknowledge how difficult it is to come out to people, especially maybe if you're in a household that follows a particular brand of beliefs that puts you in danger if you were to come out. There's people that you can come out to, therapists, social workers, your teachers, and you can feel safe about it. It's okay. Of course, you want to find a trusted parent, which would be great. Sometimes you can't get that. It's impossible in some circles. You'd be sent off to a camp and reprogrammed. In my experience, those are cults, where I've deprogrammed people in cults. Ask me about it, it's very fun. Also, yes, Apple Fest was great. My kids got to perform with their karate dojo. It was wonderful. It was their first presentation as part of the Tokyo Joes is where they go, part of the demonstration team. It was an amazing event. I saw a longtime friend of mine, Jim Tomaszewski of Little Iguana. I've known him for 15 years or so. We used to work at Sears together a long time ago up here in Daniel Webster. But the entire event was great. The Salvation Army did a great job putting on that event, and I can't wait to go back next year. Let's see. Oh, yes, referring to committee. So ultimately, I couldn't support Alderman Sullivan's motion just because of the police. I think we need a safe community, and if that's what the chief's asking for, I think we should give it to him. I do think that oftentimes, maybe I get the feeling, maybe it's just my own feeling, that sometimes this is just ceremonial when we get up here after the committees have done their work and we, just rubber stamp maybe to send things through. But I'm glad that we chose not to do that. And to Alderman Clemmons and Alderman Jetty, I think the phrase is strong opinions loosely held, meaning that you can be persuaded and hear things that can change how you feel on a particular issue. And that's okay. We can do that here. We can do that in committee. I think what Alderman Lopez was saying is, we reserve our right to still speak up here and have a difference of opinion. I think that's what we're voted for. I, for one, couldn't stay at the budget committee. My daughter was ill. After the public hearing, my wife mentioned it, and I had to go over to CVS and get some medicine for her. Didn't have opportunities to ask questions, but I'm glad to hear that it wasn't so pressing that we needed to pass it tonight, and that's great to hear. And maybe the department's heads will come pre-planned with things that they may, hey, maybe we don't need to do this, because that would be a good start. Hint, hint. Hey, laughter. Right. I had some more. Oh yes. So the keen wisdom of legal counsel from Attorney Bolton. I think I just want to clarify my statements. This still hasn't been read into the record yet. I don't know when we do that, but this email that is attached, it's not from the speaker who gave it to us. I don't know who it's from. It's blacked out. But it basically said it's a lie, meaning that whatever we're doing, we're lying about it. So yes, I'm gonna push back on misinformation. It always gets me up. So right in the funny bone about silver spoon millionaires coming in here acting like they're the crown jewel of the working class, pushing off information that we don't know to be true until we ask legal counsel. And if maybe he's wrong, then you can go to a court, which you can do. There's 3 systems of government. Final resolution, and then they have the final say. It's just like what I said about Eversource. Sununu cut their taxes, and how did we get thanked? We get pricing increases. No offense to Alderman Tebow, who works for them. And then you're gonna be up with these millionaires at his ski resort, telling the heat at 90 degrees up there. This chamber is represented by the middle class, every single one of us.
The heat is regularly down.
Yes, it's very cold in here. We have former military, we have retirees, we have working class individuals here, and it's fantastic that we are representative of the city. Everyone knows. You can go down to my Facebook, you can go back to when I spoke as a kid in college. Millionaires who were born with silver spoons in their mouths, who didn't earn crap, have no respect from me. And I just want that to be perfectly clear. Build a ski resort with your dad's money. The House Majority Leader blew the $50 million company his dad handed over to him, and then what do? Cut more taxes and shift all costs down to middle class people in New Hampshire. It's outrageous listening to millionaires on stuff like this. Sorry to go on a rant. Thank you.
Alderman Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam President. I felt that I was, you know what? I was happy tonight that I lost. Never said that. But it really is, it's okay. Because a business mentor of mine once told me, you know what? Give them something to say no to. And because what it does is it forces conversation. And that's what I wanted to do. I sat at the budget meeting and it was going really, really fast. And I just said, I think there's $2.5 million in here. And then when they asked me what I wanted to do, I voted no. Because I didn't go through the line items and then I dug into it, as you can see. I think that, you know, there are a couple of line items on there. I know if we had a newspaper in this town, there would be a headline splashed across it tomorrow morning. Sullivan favors to slash police department. I know that would be the headline tomorrow in Nashua. But the way I looked at it was, I was just cutting back on the addition that they asked for. That was my opinion. And then when it comes up again in committee, I do reserve the right to change my mind. And listening to everybody here tonight, I'd probably change my mind, but I don't know. But again, I wanted to give you something to say no to. And it caused debate. And it caused questioning. And that's what I wanted to do. That was it. If that's a lot of money, that's a lot of money. And if we can push some of that back to help the citizens in this very difficult year, especially the seniors that don't get a raise, they get fixed income. And then they have to make everything else work out. That's what I'm talking about. And to talk specifically about outdoor dining, I don't want to bring that up again. I'm the most apolitical person you will ever meet. I am thrilled to dunk on both parties. I'll tell you that right now. I didn't cut out, the reason I put outdoor dining on there was that's the law, it's the ordinance, we passed it, I got it. The reason I cut it was because there's an open discussion right now in the Planning and Economic Development Committee on what to charge for the barriers to help pay for it. I just said, well, you know what, that's gonna force them to come up with a solution that's gonna pay for it. That's why I cut it. I didn't do it to stop outdoor dining. And then as far as the Elm Street Middle project, it was my opinion, again, I put it in there, it was a motion to amend. There was no plan. There's no plan to fund. Alderman Down said it himself. There's no plan. So I said, why fund it? There's $50,000, let's put it in there. But it caused discussion. I was happy about that. So I'm glad it's going back to committee. I'm glad we have another opportunity to look at it. And I really appreciate the conversation, the debate. I think it's okay. And again, I was thrilled to lose tonight. It's okay. Thanks.
You bet. Okay. I wanted to go back to one thing that I told Alderman Lopez that I would do. There being no objection, I will accept the communication and place it on file that was received from Laurie Ortolano during public comment period. Also tonight, I would like to send my condolences to the family of Bob Maffey, who passed a couple weeks ago. He was a local businessman and comes from a great family, so just wanted to send my condolences to them. And that's all I have.
Madam President?
Alderman Clevens?
Can we also put this on the record as well, the handout from Alderman Sullivan.
There being no objection, I will accept the communication from Alderman Sullivan, place it on file.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Committee announcements. Here, Alderman O'Brien?
Committee announcements?
Yeah.
I don't have anything, I don't think.
Okay. Alderman Moran?
Thank you, Madam President. Please join us at PEDC tomorrow. We're going to be discussing rezoning up on Amherst Street around Building 19, trying to put an overlay, see if that's practical, so we can allow for some residential mixed-use building and commercial area. We'll also have the fire department there to discuss response to potentially future bills that go pretty high. So it'll be a very interesting meeting tomorrow night.
Other committee announcements? Alderman Dowd?
Yeah, I think it's well known, but Thursday night, we'll be having a special public hearing on 5 bonds, followed by budget.
Alderman Kamal?
If I may, Madam President, through you to Alderman Moran, will there be anything on tomorrow's agenda regarding the outdoor dining plan? Was that supposed to come back up tomorrow, or is that next month?
If I may.
Alderman Moran?
No, we're going to have 2 PDC committee meetings, that's right. Donna, can you remind me of the second one?
The 18th.
The 18th. Well, that's where we'll be discussing outdoor dining.
Thank you.
I thought there was too much to be jam-packed into one meeting, so we split it up.
Alderwoman Timmons?
Thank you, Madam President. Tomorrow, the Health Department is meeting at 12 o'clock here in the auditorium.
Okay. Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion that the October 11, 2022 meeting of the Board of Aldermen be adjourned.
Motion is to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 9:36 p.m. Thank you, everyone.